We'll be exploring what the neighborhood is known for, but keep in mind that it's a much different place since the coronavirus pandemic devastated the city last spring and continues to be a challenge. Check nycgo.com to see what's open right now or opening soon, and make sure to contact any place you hope to visit to check hours of operation and protocols. Please wear a mask and maintain 6 feet distance in public. Please also check New York State's Department of Health Coronavirus Information website for information updated about all travel advisories for anyone arriving to New York City from states that have a significant degree of community-wide spread of COVID-19. Hi, my name is Tim Reese with Tourist New York, and welcome to another segment of Places to Visit in New York City, in which we explore neighborhoods, attractions, points of interest, historic sites, and things to do. In this episode, we're heading over to the west side of Manhattan to delve into the neighborhood called Hell's Kitchen. Today's Hell's Kitchen is home to scores of restaurants, theaters, art complexes, parks, and the gleaming and ultra-expensive Hudson Yards, New York's newest city within a city. Hell's Kitchen, also called Clinton, is surrounded on the south by Chelsea, on the east by the Garment Center and the Theater District, and on the north by Lincoln Square, and is an easy 7-minute walk from Times Square. The historic boundaries are generally defined as extending from 8th Avenue to the Hudson River and approximately from 30th to 59th Streets. Public transportation options include nearby subways, several bus routes, and some ferry operations on the Hudson River. There was a time when New York City was a virgin wilderness, and Manhattan's landforms ranged from rolling hills to churning rivers, from forests to salt marshes. Manhattan had ponds, streams, meadows, brooks, beaches, and wetlands. Diverse flora and fauna that reigned supreme included trees, flowers, grasses, birds, reptiles, fish, and mammals. Over time, humans shaped the landscape, cutting down forests, building farms, leveling hills, filling in lakes, ponds, streams, and shorelines. Habitat evolution helped the humans, but significantly impacted and reduced the number of plants and animals. Indigenous history in the area goes back approximately 12,000 years. The Lenape people are the original inhabitants of New York City. Change occurred in a complex and violent colonization of native people. Change and evolution continues to be inevitable in a large city like New York. Some see change as a threat, as a negative evolution because it will cause upheaval, but many look at it as it is an opportunity for better things to come. In colonial times, most of the area was covered by forests and farmland. Several large farms of that era existed in this area. One such farm from the 1600s was owned by Dutch settler Andries Hoppen and his descendants, who farmed a very large tract of land that was about 240 acres in size. In the early 19th century, wealthy attorney John George Leake originally owned a large parcel of land that he called the Hermitage Farm, and in 1825 a right-of-way through the farm was sold to the city so 42nd Street could be extended all the way to the Hudson River. Cattle brought over from New Jersey were then moved and herded along what is now present-day 42nd Street to slaughterhouses on the east side of Manhattan. Over time, as the city continued to grow from the south to the north, investors and land speculators like John Jacob Astor and William Cutting began buying plots of land to be subdivided and developed. By the mid-19th century, most structures in this area had been built with wood materials and could be easily demolished to make way for new construction. Homesteading was on the way out, and industry was on the way in. Industrial brick and wood buildings began to rise up on the west side and were aligned with a street grid that had yet to be completed. The Hudson River Railroad was completed in Hell's Kitchen on September 29, 1849. The rural riverfront and environs was industrialized with companies like forges, stone yards, lime kilns, tanneries, warehouses, factories, and gasworks. Irish immigrants, mostly refugees from the Great Famine, found work on the docks and railroad along the Hudson River and established shanty towns there. After the American Civil War, there was the arrival of a large number of German and Irish immigrants who came to New York City and made their way to the west side of Manhattan. The tenements that were built became quickly overcrowded. Many who lived in this congested, poverty-stricken area turned to gang life. Hell's Kitchen was once known as New York's most notorious and violent slum, a gritty, hardscrabble immigrant enclave in the 19th and well into the 20th centuries. The name Hell's Kitchen was perhaps taken from that of a gang formed in the area in the late 1860s or adopted by local police in the 1870s. Legend has it that one rookie cop commented to his more seasoned partner, "This place is hell itself." "Hell's a mild climate," his partner replied. "This is Hell's Kitchen." Many real estate agents now use the name Clinton, taken from former New York Governor Dewitt Clinton, who once owned a farm in the area. The waterfront flourished after World War II with plenty of work for all. However, after containerized shipping arrived in the 1950s and the decline of the ocean liner, much of the waterfront and the West Side piers were abandoned during the 1960s, and many workers found themselves unemployed. Manhattan has been a portal and hub for inland and overseas trade for millennia, long before Europeans arrived. New York Harbor has historically been a gateway to domestic and international commerce and is one of the world's great natural harbors. Its advantage includes its depth, the Hudson River, and its location. Another advantage was the Erie Canal, which connected the Great Lakes region to the Hudson River and created a profitable maritime route from New York Harbor to the country's interior. Manufacturing, immigration, and even finance followed from this maritime supremacy. Other major reasons for growth in New York City and Hell's Kitchen included the establishment of the Commissioner's Plan of 1811, a plan in which a grid of avenues was created running north and south with intersecting streets running east and west that made it easy and conducive for real estate development. Also, the center of shipping moved from the East River to the Hudson River to utilize deeper channels needed by steamships. In the early 1980s, gentrification in Hell's Kitchen began to alter the demographics of the longtime working-class Irish-American neighborhood. There had been tremendous gentrification in recent years due to its proximity to the Theater District and Midtown Manhattan. New buildings are going up, and older ones are being converted to high-end residences. The development of Hudson Yards and the High Line, just to the south, have spurred the rapid growth. Real estate agents have said the prices have gone up, but are still lower than in surrounding communities like Chelsea and the Upper West Side. The neighborhood has some big buildings that can't be missed because they're so big, like the Jacob Javits Convention Center on 11th Avenue between 34th and 40th Streets. Designed in part by I.M. Pei, who was a famous architect whose work often balanced the cutting edge and conventional, the 1.8 million square foot space makes it one of the busiest trade show convention centers in North America. 2 million people visited the facility annually, including 200,000 comic book enthusiasts who attended New York Comic Con in the fall of 2019. It's currently undergoing a large-scale renovation that will nearly double its footprint. It will eventually include a 55,000 square foot ballroom, the largest in the Northeast, a rooftop terrace that will accommodate up to 1,500 attendees. Its expected renovation completion will be in 2021. The New Yorker Hotel was completed in 1930. It was the largest hotel in New York City when it opened, with 2,500 rooms. It now has 860 guest rooms available. It was a popular destination in the 1940s and 1950s. Famous bands of the day played here, including Benny Goodman, Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey, and Woody Herman. Physicist, electrical engineer, and alternating current inventor Nikola Tesla died here in 1943, where he had lived for the last 10 years of his life. The Barbershop was one of the largest in the world, with 42 chairs and 20 manicurists, 92 telephone operators, and 150 laundry staff washing as many 350,000 garments daily. And it originally had 5 restaurants. Another gem that can't be missed is the General Post Office, also known as the James A. Farley Building, and it was completed in 1913 and opened in 1914. It's the main United States Postal Service building in New York City. The building is a National Historic Landmark with a 2-block row of Corinthian columns. It's the site of the future Moynihan Station. named after Hell's Kitchen native Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. It's undergoing a $1.6 billion transformation into a new transit hub and is being integrated as part of the Penn Station expansion. The post office is open daily until 10 p.m. and a domestic postcard stamp costs 35 cents and an international stamp costs $1.20. Think how much fun it would be for your friends and family to get a postcard from New York City sent during your visit. The economic importance of tourism to New York City's economy is vital. However, due to the coronavirus pandemic, many restaurants, hotels, retail stores, museums, and other cultural venues have seen tremendous losses. Outdoor dining and takeout service have helped some restaurants survive. Last year at this time, there were 27,000 restaurants in New York City. When looking for a restaurant in Hell's Kitchen, one suggestion is to head to Restaurant Row on 46th Street between 8th and 9th Avenues. Many eateries have set up outdoor dining areas, and if you're in the mood for Italian, French, Spanish, steakhouse, pub food, Asian, or even Cajun, keep Restaurant Row in mind. It's located conveniently close to Broadway in the theater district and has more than a century of culinary history. Another dining destination in Hell's Kitchen are the restaurants located along 9th and 10th Avenues between 43rd and 50th Streets. You're more likely to rub elbows with locals in these restaurants, and it'll be easier getting a table on short notice. A visit to Hell's Kitchen wouldn't be complete without heading over to the river to see the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. It is located at Pier 86 at 46th Street along the Hudson River. The museum is aboard an old U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, the USS Intrepid, and was built during World War II. The Intrepid endured 5 kamikaze attacks and a torpedo strike. It was commissioned in August of 1943 and also saw service in the Korean War and the Vietnam War. It was decommissioned in 1974 and converted into a museum in 1982. It displays fighter planes, military weapons, and other artifacts, and is great for families and children. It's also famous for being the recovery ship for Mercury and Gemini space missions. Looking to stretch out or go for a run? Then head over to one of the several parks in the area. The Dewitt Clinton Park was one of the first New York City parks in Manhattan on the working waterfront of the Hudson River and is named for Dewitt Clinton, who had created a business boom along the Hudson when he opened the Erie Canal in 1825. Another option with great views is the Hudson River Park. It runs from Battery Park in the Financial District all the way up to West 59th Street. It covers 550 riverside acres, and New Yorkers and tourists enjoy jogging, biking, and walking along it. Volleyball courts, skateboard parks, tennis courts, kayaking, waterfront beaches and tables, snack stands, and free entertainment all summer long, like film screening and live music, add to the fun. The new park is a joint New York City and New York State park venture. At the very southern boundary of Hell's Kitchen is the northern terminus of the old West Side Freight Line, which was built between 1929 and 1934. This long abandoned and unused elevated freight line was converted into a park called the High Line, which is nearly 1.5 miles in length. The northern portion loops around a still active rail yard that serves Penn Station nearby and the new Hudson Yards development. The rail history in and around the area goes back to the yard being used as a depot for the Hudson River Railroad in the mid-1800s, then later as part of Cornelius Vanderbilt's New York Central Railroad empire. The High Line was originally built as part of a massive infrastructure project called the West Side Improvement. It lifted train traffic 30 feet in the air, removing dangerous trains from the streets of Manhattan's largest industrial district. The freight trains carried mostly food and agricultural goods to the upper stories of factories and warehouses. Train traffic began to decrease in the 1950s due to the rise of interstate trucking and stopped altogether in 1980. Portions of the elevated line were demolished in the 1960s and 1990s. Finally, this brings us to Hudson Yards, the development and architecture site that has received criticism and praise alike. You'll have to decide yourself if it's your cup of tea. Some background for you though. It's the largest private real estate development in the history of the United States, spanning 28 acres and accommodating upward of 18 million square feet of office, retail, and residential space. Some refer to it as a mini city. You can visit here easily because Midtown is now connected to Hudson Yards via the number 7 subway line from Times Square to 34th Street and 11th Avenue. The project was built atop a massive platform over 30 active train tracks and several rail tunnels, and the developers are Related Properties and Oxford Properties Group. This mega project is a mixed-use parcel with 16 buildings comprising office space, retail outlets, residences, and a cultural institution called The Shed, which is a space for visual and performing arts. The main feature here is the Thomas Heatherwick and Heatherwick Studio Design Vessel, which offers remarkable views of the surrounding area. There are 154 flights of stairs, some 2,500 individual steps and 80 landings, and it's 15 stories tall. Ticketed entry is required and free reservations can be made online. There are food and drink options and retail shops inside the mall portion of the development, although several have closed due to COVID-19. There is also an amazing observation deck on one of the towers, and it's called Edge, and it's the tallest outside observation deck in the Western Hemisphere. You can take in views from 1,100 feet in the air. It features a large glass floor with views straight down towards the neighborhood below. This brings us to the end of our virtual journey. New York City is a center of international finance, fashion, journalism, publishing, entertainment, culture, and tourism. One of the world's major global cities with a nearly unrivaled collection of restaurants, museums, galleries, and performance venues, and we hope you can visit safely soon. It's been a distinct honor and privilege giving you a virtual tour experience today as we explored Hell's Kitchen. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time online.